If this is not high enough, just interrupt as we're going. Ask questions as we go. I teach. I don't really preach. This is weird. No, you're good. I just got to get over it. So, like I said, I like to teach, not really preach. That's what I do for a living. So I run a school for troubled teenage boys about 12 miles from here called Future Men, and named after Doug Wilson's book, actually. I read that a long time ago, along with everything else he's written. I love the name. And we've had about 450 boys go through our program in the last 20 years. And I'll tell you a little bit about it in the sense of how it pertains to you. Otherwise, in a nice way, who cares, right? It's what I do for a living, but nothing to do with you. My wife and I are very blessed. We have 14 kids, one at a time. No twins, sadly. But just, God's been we've been very fruitful, to say the least. And it's a crazy endeavor. When I walk around here, I'm just kind of I don't feel old, and I don't think I am old, but I have 5 grandkids, so maybe I am old. But I look at a lot of you men with the kids, and I feel like everybody here is older than me. You know how we have those own little paradigms in our head, right? Our little indie movie, right? And we're all wrong. We think that, anyway. I see a lot of guys with young kids, and it's pretty exciting. My youngest, his name is, her name is Finn. Angus will be here this afternoon here in a little bit, one of my younger sons. We have 9 sons and 5 daughters. But it's been a wild ride, to say the least. When Noah talked about taking risks, I think of the days when we started Future Men, and it was like an enormous risk. We had about 6 or 7 kids at the time. I quit my job for the second time. I quit teaching out in public schools out in California to come out here and work for a different company to start a school for a residential treatment center for teens, and then just kept kind of kicking the goads a little bit with what I thought we should be doing versus what we were doing, because I was working for somebody else. And then I had a nice Christian boss, and he said, Aaron, maybe God's calling you to start your own company, your own business for boys. I'm like, well, I don't have $1 million in my back pocket, so I don't know how that's going to work. But it's weird. Noah's message, or whatever you want to call it, was actually right on in the sense of you got to take chances. Cashed in my retirement. That's better. Bought a single-wide mobile home, 1969. I don't know what it was. It was garbage is what it was. But we cleaned it up. We painted it. And I don't know why in the world parents felt comfortable dropping their kid off. Maybe they were desperate. I'm thinking they probably were. But they did. And we grew, and we built, and we bought some land, and we continued. And God has been 20 years later, it's still podunk, and it's still hillbilly, but we blessed a lot of families, I hope. And we're continuing to work with kids. But the main thing that's come out of this for me is just the principles of discipleship. And that's enormous. And that's why I want to come across to you guys. I hated school. That's really nice. Thank you. No, dark is great, man. But men who love darkness are bad, right? So maybe I should leave. But it's not glaring. So I can see you guys now. Can you see me or no?
We can sort of see you.
The silhouette. This is like Batman, right? Or something like that. This is really cool. All right. I won't be able to see my notes, which is maybe even better. So I want to start out with a really super fast. Somebody wait, can you give me 20, 15? Just come and give me a countdown. We're running out of time all right. So the main idea here, like I said, God has blessed me with 9 sons, and the daughters are just as important. But I feel like this is a father-son talk, so I'm going to stick with the sons mainly. And for me, I was heavy into all the typical homeschool books, all of the reforming your marriage and just the owning it, right? Which everybody's probably in the same genre now. I look at there and I see the way we're dressing, I see the books we're reading. It's like, okay, we're all on that same track still, and it's a great track. It's fantastic. But I missed a huge component. And for me, I was extremely faithful on family worship and devotions, extremely faithful on dating my wife, right? I love my wife. We have a great marriage. It's been a lot of fun. And like anybody else's marriage, it's rough at times, but we've never looked back, right? That's the whole thing about it's a covenant. We talked about that yesterday a little bit. We're now married 32 years as of yesterday. And I can't even imagine being 32 years old, let alone 32 years of marriage. But it happens. But I remember about 7 or 8, maybe 10 years ago, some of my older sons were off to college. We've had 7 that have made it through college so far, and God's been in that college. Who cares? Trades I have a boy right now heavy involved in trades. That's fantastic, and we'll talk about that in a second. But we were doing the whole family worship. Not every night, but at least 5 days a week. We were pretty consistent, very strategic with the material we're taking them through. And each night it was about a 45-minute deal. And for me, it was relaxing. I love the songs. I love to teach the boys and my kids, not the boys. But as some of you know who got mixed families, meaning we've got like three groups, it seems like. There's the older kids, there's the middle kids, and there's little kids, right? And when you're doing family worship, it's like, who do I steer this to? And then, 10 years into it, you realize, I haven't taught these kids about the principles of baptism, or I haven't taught these kids about the principles of, whatever it is, right? You go through those cycles. Are you guys familiar with this, or am I like blind up here? You guys good? Okay. So, heavy into it, loving it, especially the worship time. Because I used to play guitar for all our worship. And then my kids, when they learned instruments, they would join me. And then, I don't know what changed, but like with the invention of YouTube, there's some amazing like worship stuff you can find online. And we started watching online. And honestly, it was better for me. I enjoyed a little more professional music, in our home. And I could just relax. So I would close my eyes, just worship God, sing the songs right, and then teach the kids. A lot of fun. Memory verses and all that kind of stuff that everybody in this room is probably doing. And then when my son Asa was in college and started dating this girl, we have some pretty strict rules on dating, which I can share a little bit with you guys. Because, to me, it's like you need to be intentional. American dating is garbage. And if I had a show of hands in here, who walked into marriage pure, it might be like, I don't know how many people. Maybe 1, 2, 3. Maybe I'm misjudging this group, but I know myself, not so much. My parents' standards were have a great time, see you in 6 hours, as you go to a 1 or 2 hour movie. And it's like, well, what are we doing with the other 4 hours? Right? No accountability. It's like, this is terrible. Proverbs talks about that, right? It says, don't be a willing party to your son's death. What's your name, buddy? Yep, you. No, you. Not your kid, you. Ed? What does it mean to not be a willing party to your son's death?
Don't send him into a situation
Yeah, and we do it all the time. We say, hey, I trust my son. Again, I'm running Future Men, right? I'm dealing with hundreds of boys, honestly from Christian homeschool families, the majority of them. Because the way our website looks, I guess, and it wasn't on purpose, but I think it's God. Well, yeah, I think it's God. That's a funny statement. It's got to be God. But what I'm finding is that trust just means, hey, I'm too lazy to do my job. I don't want to rock the boat. And my kid, this is going to be a hard conversation, and I can just sit in my chair, or I can go to bed early tonight, or I can do whatever it is I'm wanting to do. And I hope my kid makes it, and I raised him right, so we'll see what happens. And it's like, ain't wrong. So the gentleman up there with the prosthetic leg, what's your name? Joel. So you got little guys still, right? You got big kids or just little guys?
I have 4 older daughters.
All right, so you're in the middle of a fight. So whatever you're hearing, right, be thinking, okay, I haven't ruined it yet. We're still good, right? There's time. But I remember waking up with Asa. So I ran Future Men, and this was, like I said, about 10 years ago. So we're about 10, 15 years into Future Men, and we're discipling everybody, right? One of the most fun parts about Future Men was the staff. So we have a position there called mentors, and it's for guys who are typically college grad age. They don't have to be college grads. They can just be guys who work trades or whatever. They come live it there. It's a paid position. They get, room and board. But our big thing is, man, we're going to pour into you. So we do discipleship on parenting. We do parenting classes and counseling. We all our mentors there are trained in ACBC counseling, which is like a Christian counseling degree, if you're not familiar with that. Our staff are all trained in Christian counseling. But I'm like, I want these mentors to go out there and raise families for God, right? And we've seen some amazing, fun results from that. But for some reason, major disconnect with my own kids. I'm like, well, hey, we're good. Our school curriculum and our family worship, it covers it, right? Because my kids haven't gone off the path yet. They don't need to be discipled. We're discipling them all day. That's wrong. I mean, we are discipling them all day. Everything we do is discipleship, and that's a fact. I love to restore old cars. I love 60s and 70s trucks and cars. And it's really pathetic, but I do. And when we're out there, teaching my boys welding, or if we're working on body work, or we're doing something, that's discipleship too. It is. But it's not intentional. I'm going to work on your soul right now. So I don't know what clicked, but something made me realize I've dropped the ball with my sons and my daughters, right? I got my daughter, my oldest daughter, and it's when she began the courtship process, I'm like, I'm the one who's the guardian of her, right? Her life. Does she trust me? Have I been dating her? I mean, she knows my life. She knows I love my wife. She knows a lot about me. But there's something about the intimate relationship of a one-on-one conversation that is purposeful. And honestly, this sounds so lame for your own kids, but a scheduled time. Every single week, and you don't miss it. And you have to prioritize it. And if for some reason you have to change the time, okay, that's fine, whatever, life happens, right? But you better do it. And you're taking them through, like discipleship is basically accountability. So you're asking them, hey, how's your week? How's it going in your school? How's your classes? I just applied the exact same thing I was doing to the mentors. And gee, what do you know? It worked with my sons. And when we start having problems, and I mentioned this yesterday because this is, if you don't have older kids yet, this is the big one, man. This is the hook. It's hormones. Man, you know, women are amazing, right? They're fun. They're beautiful. God's like, he knew what he was doing when he made, Eve, the first one. And our sons see it too. Valiant. You like girls? He's going to say, he's embarrassed now. You will, trust me. It's going to be fun. But it's like, Dad had better have a good relationship with you. Because when you're reining them in a little bit, helping them realize, hey, that's great, but this is somebody's daughter. Hey, that's great, but like we respect women, right? Love, and you're teaching this the whole way growing up. We have something called L&P. L&P just means love and protect. So if I see Angus out there saying some words to his sister that aren't so great, I'm like, hey, L&P, buddy, get with it, right? And if it requires discipline because he continued it or something, that's fine. But he knows L&P is important. You love and you protect women. I'm extremely sexist. And I've been like condemned by some people. Oh, you're patriarch and all this stuff. And you read all these books. And it's like, it's protecting women. It's loving them, allowing them to do what God has created them to do, right? It's like, it's cherishing them. And for some reason, our society thinks if you dare think you have to protect me, there's something wrong with you. And I'm like, oh, forget that. I'm raising my kids to protect women. That's what we do, right? We love them. Their mom, their sisters. It's like women they're precious. But that's something you teach in discipleship. You go through a book. There's a million books out there. J.C. Ryle, great books. Created for Work, Mark Schultz, right? He has this little series for kids, right? Kids meaning like, I don't know, 8 on up maybe. But you start discipling your sons. We start the discipleship process, and this is totally random. You can do whatever you want. We started at 13, and I call it, there are little kids in here, but this is not a bad word. I call it the wiener talk. There you go. So it's like the first sex ed talk, right, with my kids. And it's not about sex at all, to be honest. A tiny bit of plumbing details, right? Like this is what's happening. This is why you feel kind of weird in the morning. This is what's going on. You're alleviating some questions that are in their mind. But that talk is ongoing. And when they're 17, 18, even 16 a little bit, and they're really wanting questions and they're really going through stuff with girls, you've already got their trust. You're already in, right? You're having, my son Hawken, for example, this kid's been in love with this girl in their bluegrass band for 4 years. If he hears this tape or she hears this tape, I'm in trouble. So don't put this anywhere on the internet. But he's been in love with this girl. And I'm like, Hawkins, she's an amazing girl. Her family, amazing Christian people. It's thinking, don't you ever disclose your emotion yet. That's not your place. That's not your right yet. There's no ownership in this. You're not prepared to handle, like you're not ready to take ownership of somebody. So don't act like it, right? It's emotional defraudment. They're not your girlfriend. Now, that's my personal opinion, and you guys are going to have all your own personal opinions. But again, this is the willing party to your son's death. If you know that saying, if you aim for nothing, you're going to hit it every time, right? Hey, that's how it is to train your sons and your daughters. It's like, so have a plan, stick with it. And sometimes it feels like it's failing. I mean, it just does, because the kid's kicking against the goads. I have a son named Carver right now. He's like 19, and it's hard for him. He wants so much to be like everybody else. And he's going to a Christian college, College of the Ozarks here, great school, it's neat and all that fine stuff, right? But everything's geared around, hey, we're just a little behind the world, right? We're the world with a little bit of morality splashed in, or we'll pray a little more often, or we'll praise Jesus, but we're basically the world. And I'm like, golly, Neds, why? Let's go a little higher. But this is weekly talks, and I'll be honest, sometimes I'm just like, I'm tired. I'm like, I don't want another discussion. And it's like, oh, really? You don't want to know this is your son, so you'd rather pick up the pieces in 5 years? You'd rather watch him walk into a marriage, with some baggage? Really? Or just have a hard talk. Get off your lazy butt, go talk to your son, right? And that's not always in the discipleship time. That's a lot of times, hey, here's an extra talk. Hey, here's an extra 45 minutes at 10:30 at night when I'd rather be doing something different. But it's like, we're dads. Die to yourself. When the kids of future men, they'll when I'm leaving work, they'll come out to my truck, Mr. Boldman, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going home. Like, well, what about us? I'm like, hey, that's why I hired these staff. They're on with you. I got to go to my second job or my first job, however you look at it, right? I got to go back to work. Home is work. Home is it's amazing, right? I love my house. I love my wife. I love my job there. But it's a job. right? It's like it's a calling. You got to die to self. There'll come a time when it's more focused on you, I suppose, when you're youngest or like they're older now and you're sort of the grandpa or whatever, they drop the kids off. And we're a little bit of both. Our life's kind of weird. We have real little kids and grandkids. My wife was very fertile. So when you have that birth control talk and you're praying about this, pray hard. Because it's going to hit. There are consequences. And that's good. This is just reality. Right? I'm not some great holy spiritual guy. This is just practical. I hope I am holy and spiritual. Good grief. But it is real. So worship with your son. We're talking about devotions versus discipleship. Any questions on? Well, wait. There's a Q&A this afternoon, so save that. I'll tell you a really fast story about like not doing your job. When I was a kid growing up, my dad had a beautiful '55 Chevy convertible. I love old cars, and I loved that car. And I was told that was my inheritance, which was a lie. He sold it to pay for one of my other brother's college, which I was ticked, but whatever. I'm not bitter. Beautiful '55 Chevy convertible. And I remember he would let me drive it once in a while. But I remember other guys coming around my house sniffing after my sister, right? She was a year older than me, a year and a half older. And they'd want to take her out. They'd want to date her. And I remember whoever it was, they could just come, take my sister, and go. And some things happened that should not have happened. I mean, I don't know all the details, but my sister and I were fairly close, and she would tell me things about the guys she's dated. And that '55 Chevy was never allowed to leave the garage with anybody. I'm like, it was a stupid car. It was rubber tires, right, metal body, and this is your daughter. And it's like, whoever can come, hey, well, you go to her school, so I guess you're okay. Or you go to our church, so I guess you're okay. Go take my daughter out, and we'll see you in 5 hours. Right? Because that's a typical date. Get real. Some of you guys who dated women, you know what this is like. It's like, is that who we are? Right? We were more interested in like, who's got my car or the insurance on this vehicle rather than my actual daughter. Yeah. That's not good. But that's like the willing party, again, to your son's death or your daughter's death, right? I'm sticking with sons because that's our theme, but it goes both ways. The lights are off, which is fantastic, and I can't see squat. Let me ask you guys about this. So I put down here, we talked about when it roughly begins. Okay, how many of you guys have read or put your kids through the book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye? Right, anybody in this room? Nobody? Okay, or there's another book called Not Yet Married. Anybody heard of that book? These are books that are looking at the principles of like what this beginnings of courtship sort of looks like. And those are all great. And those are all, I would recommend, they're probably all, even if the people who wrote them are now screwed up, which if you know anything about some of those, they're screwed up. It doesn't mean the material's no good. I mean, I'm a pretty big proponent of welcome to being a human. But if the stuff they wrote is true, right, you're looking at the message, not necessarily the deliverer of that message. They can become a mess. And Lord willing, he'll come back to the Lord later on. But it's like, that's not enough. And when I remember being 14, I think I was 14, 13 or 14-ish, I came home from school one day and there was a book on my bed called Almost 12. That was my version of the Birds and Bees from my parents. This book on my bed, I'm like, well, I ain't reading this, right? This is retarded. I looked for pictures, right? And there was a few little graphic things which were kind of lame, so I just put it back on my shelf and never looked at it again. But I'm telling you, it's an ongoing conversation every single week with your kids. Walk them through those kind of books. Walk them through the principles of those books, but you're talking. So pornography, right? We open that can of worms, and we're not going to go into it deep because this is a mixed, there's a lot of little kids in here. That's a huge world right now. If your kid has a phone, this is going to sound like me putting my principles on you, but it's true. Dude, it's like you're walking around with like a gun in your kid's pocket. That's, I don't know why, if it's worth it. I don't know what conditions you can justify, and you can do whatever you want. It's your family, again. But that's a huge deal. Stuff is on there, and it's like, it's not good stuff. And that whole idea of like sexual conditioning or like what you get used to when you are going through puberty, when you are experiencing, sexual type things for the first time, right? Your brain remembers those things, right? They're called like markers, and serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, they all play into that. If you're familiar with those types of, the biology behind some of the stuff, it works, right? I mean, God, he made us amazingly special. And I tell my boys, I want you to walk into your marriage with, you have no memories except her. She's all you've seen. She's all you know. Because guess what? You're grateful. Covetousness is an enormous sin in marriage. And it's like we sort of wish we had that wife. Well, if she was just this, Well, our kids are going to be no different than us. They might be worse, right, if we've not done our job very well in terms of the baggage they bring into marriage or what they've allowed their brains to see. But all this stuff doesn't magically go away just because you've asked for forgiveness. And God does forgive. But God is just, meaning you reap what you sow. And I tell my wife, 10 minutes? Holy cow. Okay, forget what I tell my wife. Let's keep going. Okay, job stuff. This is enormous too. They're all enormous, darn it. This is too short. So when you're talking to your boys about job stuff, so these are men, right? These are young men that are going out in the job market. And Noah was talking a little bit about taking chances and all that. Very true. Know the difference. Teach your sons the difference between a job and a hobby. I can't tell you how many kids come to Future Men, and even the staff, I want to be a professional basketball player. I'm like, well, you're not going to be. I got kids say, I want to be an aeronautic engineer. These kids tell me this. I want to be an engineer. I'm like, fantastic. You can't do algebra 1. You're not going to be an engineer, right? That's reality. Or I want to be a rock musician. I'm like, you're not that good now, and you're 17. You're not going to be a rock musician. Now, does it mean don't try? No, it doesn't mean don't try. But know the difference, right? Between my second oldest son, Walker, is an amazing violinist, and he played a lot of shows in Branson back in the day. He's won contests. He really is good. But I told him, that's not your career. And he was offered a music scholarship at C of O. Well, it's not really a scholarship at C of O, but they wanted him to pursue music. And he did it on the side. He always did it. He did it for worship. He did it for symphonies. But I said, you need a career. You want to get married, you have to be able to provide for your wife. And music is a rough road. And very few people make it to where music pays their bills, right? I just said, that's probably a hobby. And if your hobby takes over, more power to you. You're one of those blessed guys, right? Praise God. You're lucky. Hobbies don't always take over. I love to wood carve, and I'm good at wood carving. I would starve if we were based on my wood carving or my car restoration abilities. It ain't going to happen. And God put it on my heart to have a family. God put it on my heart, right, to I want to get married. So you got to work. And work is great. The trades, by the way, right now there's nobody doing trades. I get kids from Future Men. This blows my mind. They have about a 4 to 5 month training program with about 42 different businesses in our area here. Almost every single business offers the kid a full-time job when they're done with us. And those kids are going back to their states at home. They don't want to stay here. They're from all over the United States. Very few want to stay, but I've got probably 15 or 16 kids living in the Branson area who are at my school in the last, maybe 5 to 10 years, working full time. Some of them started their own businesses already. And they knew nothing when they came to Future Men. Nothing. One kid was joining the Army, and his mom just said he's got to get out of high school, help him get his degree, because he won't go to class. Well, we put him in a plumbing trade, because they all have to do trades. He didn't want to go to the Army anymore. He just never tried anything. He's a full-time plumber now running his own business. And he only had 4 years experience working with somebody else. Now, that's not going to be a very good plumber. I'm going to be blunt with you, right? He's still learning at your expense or at my expense. But I'm like, but it's there, right? The opportunity is there. And I'd say tell your kids, you got to work. If you're a man, you're going to work. I tell the boys all the time at Future Men, it's like they'll say, I don't want to do this, or I'm like, pull your pants out, look inside your pants, what do you see? And they're like, Mr. Boldman, what do you do? I'm like, just tell me what you see. Like, well, then you're at the work. That's it. You're a man. Men work. That's what we do. And it doesn't matter if you like it, that's what you're going to do. And I think it's a great thing, right? I think it's absolutely wonderful because it's like you get to express some of your creativity sometimes. You go work hard, you come home and you feel like I've done something, right? You're providing for your family. You're tired at the end of the day. The Bible says that the sleep of a laboring man is sweet. And it's like, yeah, it's very sweet because you're wore out, right? And it's fantastic. But that's what we're training our boys to do. It's not just pie in the sky ideas. Get them working. I would also say another thing for you guys is, and in this room, I hope this isn't true, but let's be honest, right? Even homeschool families are normal, right? They have weird stuff that should not be going on in your families. Again, most of the boys I get they're from homeschool families. Pornography, you better have your guards up. A lot of the boys I get is because their sisters were around. And you guys can fill in all the details because there's little kids here, and it's like, you think it's going to destroy your family because it sure feels like it when it happens, right? And those families come to me like, we don't know what to do. We're just like, our kid should be in jail, or everything was for a loss. I want to, they're distraught, and I'm like, stop. It's sin. It happens. How do you move on? Because you can move on. But what they're forgetting is, man, you put gas in that engine, right? Whether that's through movies, whether that's through illicit scenes, or whether that's through just pushing the agenda of relationships, something's going to happen. It is. And I say, don't push the agenda of relationships. There's a thing where I tell my boys, I got to think of what to say because I haven't used it for a while because they get tired of me saying the same thing. But like the desire for a relationship, right? That pursuit feel means go prepare. It's not about, there it is. It's not about participation yet. It's about preparation so you can participate in a relationship, right? When they're like 14-ish, 13, 14, up to about 19, you're working your butt off. You're figuring out who you are. And if it's college, praise God. If it's trades, praise God. But it's going to be something. You know, I've told them if you love studying, but you don't necessarily like it when we're out there working in the garden or we're picking rocks off the road, you know, whatever we're doing for our property, if that doesn't like just thrill you, because some kids love hard work. They just do. If you love the book stuff, then great. You will probably go college, but you're going to have to study hard. That's going to be your form of work, right? If you don't love school, then you better love work. But you can't hate both of them. Because hating both of them means you're going to be a typical millennial. And you're going to do nothing, right? And it's like, that's pathetic. We don't want that for our boys. So just call it out as you see it. And when you see the kids that are more bookish, right? Then wonderful. Start feeding that. Start figuring out, okay, how do I help him narrow down what God's got for him? And the boys that love to work, like my son Hawken, man, he's out there washing cars, mowing the yard, never ask. He just likes to work. Well, now he's been working as an electrician for about 2 years. And he's 17 now. He hates school. He's always hated school. I'm like, how can it's okay? He's the one I told you about just wants to get married. I'm like, then you got to have a trade. You got to have a way to provide. And honestly, he does great. He makes good money. And it's like, he's getting the trade. And that's not magic. Because maybe in the Q&A we can talk about this a little more. But like the idea of an apprenticeship, here's what it means. You know a businessman in your town or at your church, and I wouldn't even be afraid to use one in your town. I know that some of these men are not believers, and that's a risk, and I get that. And my oldest son was exposed to pornography through an apprenticeship, but we dealt with it, and I'll talk about that in a second too. But like you go up to somebody and say, hey, how would you like a free worker 2 days a week? 3 days a week. This is part of our homeschool curriculum. My son needs to learn a trade. Very few people will turn down a free worker. And every single time I've done this with my kids, at about the 3-month mark, they're not willing to take them for free anymore. They want to start paying them. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're paying them, that's all going to go towards them buying tools, them getting more, you know. Now, there's a percentage, right? Don't muzzle the ox as it treads the corn. So we give them like a little play money, so to speak. But it's like, no, this isn't about making money yet. This is about learning. And I tell those bosses, I go talk to them and say, hey, look, if you paying them means you're just going to give them the cleanup work and not really train them, we don't want money. We want training. And if you're doing both, okay, that's great, praise God. But it's like if you're just saying, I feel guilty, but now that I'm paying him, $10 an hour, I'm gonna have him on the broom more. And there's nothing wrong with being on the broom. But if that's the whole day, then it's just a job. And there's nothing wrong with a job, but I want my kids thinking, right, a little bigger than job. Now, backtrack a little bit, and this is disjointed because we're out of time, we're almost out of time. There are some sins that your sons are going to do in your family, like pushing another sibling or fighting, right? Stealing from you. Things like pornography. When you find these sins, they need to separate you. And I don't mean send your kid off to a program, and I run a program. I don't mean that. I mean help your son realize. So the first time one of my sons was caught with pornography, and praise God, it was like the first day, because he's not the smartest kid in the world, and I see things, and I love this son, but we have a treehouse at our property, and the treehouse is their home when they're doing a sin that separates, and I'll feed them, and I'll go out there and disciple them, and I'll talk to them, but it's like, you can't have a mind that's being filled with pornographic images and think I'm going to let you in the house with my daughters and my wife. I'm not going to do it. Or if your son bows up, I have dads that come to my school and drop their sons off, and their son has hit their wife or cussed her out. I'm like, who would you let in your house ever do that? Well, nobody. I'd kill him. I'm like, but you let this punk do it for the last 6 months, and your wife is like a mess right now. That's all over the place. Hopefully not in this room, right? But it's like those kind of sins separate, which just means if you don't have like property or you don't have the ability to have a little tree house or a barn or whatever, it's no big deal. Go in your garage. You set up a cot, you say, this is your home for the next 2 weeks or for the next 3 days, depending upon the level, the severity. Is it a repeat offense, right? And you guys can work out how you discipline your sons, but they need to know you won't keep a wife if you're doing those kind of things, if you're pushing her, or if you're filling your head with other images, or if you're stealing, right? Those offenses separate relationships. Let them feel that pain right now. Now, it's a pain where you go out there while they're out there. Like, I remember this, like I can see this in my head so clear. I'm out there in a treehouse in the woods. It's like November. It's raining. It's cold. My son's out there crying. And people say, oh, you're so abusive. I'm calling CPS. You're a horrible person. I'm like, no, it's my kid. Get off my back. Right? I love my son. We have a great relationship now. He's like 30 now. But it's like, I remember going out there and I said, do you understand why you're here? Yeah. I said, if I know that you're thinking these things, you're gassing that engine and there's no outlet except my daughters and my wife. I'm not going to wait until now I'm picking up those pieces. Right? And I've seen this dozens of times with the boys that come to my program. And it's like, gas the engine, sister's the victim. It's never the mom. The mom will get the anger because he knows he's guilty. He knows there's sin. So she's getting the cold shoulder. She's getting the harsh words. And in some cases, she's getting the physical altercations, which blows my mind. But it's there. And again, about 50% homeschool families come to our program. And it's like, that shouldn't be you. Right? So you're thinking ahead on these things. This is making sense? So this is just practical. Again, it's like, I don't have like some flowery speech. I'm just like, this is just, here's some tidbits of things that I've picked up and that we're trying to implement. You want a private conversation, we got like a couple hours, I think, before the Q&A thing, and there's other things I want to listen to and some things I want to do, but like, I'll be around. If you're experiencing something, like, hey, I need some discipline ideas. One thing I would say, and this is going to sound brutal again, spank your kids. Welcome to the rod is for the back of the fool. And you love your son, I'm not saying they're foolish, but their behavior is. You give up that tool, well, that's just teaching my son violence. Oh, so God's an idiot, right? He's not an idiot. And I've used that tool when my kids are even older. Because what else are you going to do? Hey, because you're lying to us right now and you're stealing from us, I guess I'm just mad. I'm going to hold a grudge for 3 weeks. Or I'm going to ground you. No, you'll whip them, and it's done. Now, I wasn't planning on talking about that because it's got me in trouble in the past. And it's like, well, man, you're dads. You love your sons, and I feel like, again, I'm not going to be a willing party to my son's death. I love my kids. And it's like, that's such a gift from God because it's over. There's a clean conscience. They've paid the price. You're not injuring them. If you know anything at all about spanking, I was beat at times as a child because my parents would do it at the last measure. I'm sick of it. I can't take it anymore. Go to my room. Okay, here comes the belt, right? That's not like controlled. That's not a spank. That's just, I'm out of control. I'm going to get my anger out on you. That is abuse. And my dad's not abusive, so I'm not saying that. But in the past, maybe, right? Because just angry. That's not discipline. That's not love. That's just you getting your frustration out. Consistent, controlled, known consequences. Ain't nobody holds it against you. Your son doesn't get any mad, have this like grudge. I mean, one of my sons, his name's Asa, amazing kid. He's a pilot now. Love this kid. Man, his butt would be black and blue for weeks growing up because he was a knucklehead. But it's like we were consistent. He loves us. We love him. He's stable. He's a good kid. But if it wasn't for that discipline, I don't know what I would have done. Because he needed something. Talking wasn't covering it because he's a son of Adam, right? He enjoys sin. He enjoys the pleasure of like being mean to his siblings at those times. Or taking something he shouldn't have taken. Or saying words to his mom he shouldn't have said. Or a look, right? You guys know these things. And it's like God's given us a tool to deal with it. And it's not you now being a bad example by having bad words to him. Or being angry or holding a grudge. We're out of time. So, use it. If you don't know how to use it, come talk. And get involved man, we didn't go through accountability. Golly, Neds, so much. Get involved in your church people, get involved with friends. There you go.